1902, what began as a small technical college now has transformed 100 years later into a premium black university. We have all heard the records that have set the precedent on many aspects, innovation, research, among its other very important academias. Well, as we celebrate 100 years of Makerere University, the Youth Roundtable convenes once again to explore the conversation of the roles of institutions of higher learning towards nation building. But let me just read for you the theme that Makerere University used as they celebrated 100 years, leveraging 100 years of excellence in building a transformed society. Well, today we shall evaluate, have they actually lived up to this particular theme of this year's celebration? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm joined by a panel of distinguished young people, ladies and gentlemen, that is now my honor and privilege to introduce to you. And with no particular order, the 82nd Guild President of Makerere University Students Guild, Comrade Roy Ssemboga, also a doctor, but also I know he's a founding member of the People Power movement, who he says began actually at Makerere University. Doctor, many thanks for joining us this afternoon.
A pleasure to be here.
Yeah. How do you feel being on the Youth Roundtable for the first time?
I don't know if I still qualify to be a youth. Being young has also been vulgarized. Actually, it's only in Uganda, I think, in Africa, where young people are vulnerable and they think they need privileges. And I think that's something we need to fight. I don't find myself extremely pleasant being called a youth, and therefore I need to be privileged by certain incentives. So certainly in Uganda, where you have the youth MPs, we need affirmative action. And yet, if you look at into our age bracket, most strong economies, they entirely rely on people of our energy to build their nations. In Uganda, it's the other way around. So this conversation should stop. Clearly, we should preserve them for the elderly, because I think that people need affirmative action. But for us, I think we need space and a platform to exercise our talents.
All right, thank you. And I think that's why we have the Youth Roundtable, space for young people. Well, next on the panel is Caroline Kainomugisha, who is still the lead communications personnel at the Mark at 100 Secretariat. Carol, she's also an economist. Carol, many thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Kidega. I am pleased to be here on this Youth Roundtable as we share our opinions and values towards the roles of higher institutions of learning in building not just Uganda, but Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, East Africa at large, Africa, and the world. Well,
thank you, Carol. The third panelist is Seith Nyesiga Bwerere, the Executive Director of ED-Ishaazi Ryeitu Foundation, Uganda, and also a former student of Ssemboga University. Seith, many thanks for sparing the time to be here.
Thank you so much. Pleasure being here. I like the way you mentioned ED-Ishaazi Ryeitu. It's an initiative by youth who like their culture, because shall we ever be Africans? Shall never be Europeans? Never be whites? We are one blood, joined by the same spirit of Ubuntu.
I love that.
That's why in our conversation before, I said it's my pleasure to see Africa being one, East Africa being one, because we're just separated by the boundaries, put by the colonial boundaries. But we are one, binded by the same spirit of Ubuntu. I can't dream to see a United States of Africa. Pleasure being here.
I love the spirit. Thank you. Yes, the last panelist on the show is Tagobya Natasha Rinah, who is a lawyer and works with CCG. Rinah, thanks for joining us.
Yes. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. And I'm so glad and I'm happy and congratulate Makerere University for making 100 years, and also congratulate Uganda for making 60 years. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. Carol, let me just start with you. You've been at the center of things. You've been in the mix of trying to put together a whole year of celebrating Makerere University at 100 years. Let's just tap into your experience. How has it been? Just before we get into evaluating whether Makerere has actually lived up to its responsibility or to its expectations, how have the celebrations been?
The celebrations have been year-long celebrations. We decided, or the leadership of the university decided to make the celebrations start from October last year, when the logo was launched and the celebrations were launched, up through the main celebrations of this year on 6th October, up to the going on till hopefully next year, April, But throughout the year, we have celebrated many great men and women who laid foundations for the existence of Makerere. There are people like late Frank Kalimuzo, who was the first Black Vice-Chancellor of a university who died during the reign of Idi Amin. Then we had the late Martin Luther Nsibira, whom we celebrated through a public lecture as well. Because of him, Makerere University exists on such vast land. Because he believed in education, he believed in setting up an institution of higher learning in Uganda. He allowed Makerere University to have a lot of land from the Buganda Kingdom, which is why we are where we are today. We've also had an alumni homecoming dinner where we welcomed various alumni back home. All who have been through the gates of Makerere came back home, and we celebrated with them 100 years. Just recently, on 6th October, we had the main celebrations of the university, where the guest of honor was His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Really, it's been joyous celebrations throughout there on the hill, Makerere.
Well, has it only been about the joyous moments? I mean, has it only been about saying cheers to maybe a glass of wine? Or have there been certain challenges that, whereas we are celebrating 100 years, there are certain significant challenges that you could say that in these 100 years, if Makerere could address this challenge, then the next 100 years could perhaps be much more different. Is it around research? Is it around the funding by government? What areas do you think we need to focus on moving forward?
Absolutely. Every great institution has challenges on the way to becoming the great institution that it is. Makerere over the years has grown. The institution started with 14 students back in 1922. As we speak today, Makerere has an intake of over 30,000 students a year. And with the growth in the number of students have come challenges to do with things like space. For example, Makerere University now has more female students compared to men. And the university has only, Mary Stuart Africa Hall complex. Those are 3 halls for girls' residences. And how many boys' residences are in the university? A number of them. Lumumba Hall, which other one? Remind me.
The Mountain Coma Hall, yes.
Come on. Before Mitchell Hall, before the capital city of the university.
The Great Livingstone Hall.
Were you in complex?
I was an African lady.
And then
the Great Livingstone Hall as well.
How can you put Lumumba before Nkrumah? Are you serious?
Anyway.
My bad.
yes, Carol. Just make your point.
So, challenges of space have been one of the challenges. But luckily, the government, as we're celebrating 100 years, the government came out to support the university and pledged to reconstruct all the halls that are not in good condition. And as we go forth into the next 100 years, there are plans to increase residences for the girl child in the university. I think we've also had more lecture rooms being constructed over time. As I said, space was equally an issue for lecture rooms. Recently, buildings were launched. There's CTF1, there's CTF2, there's a new School of Dentistry, the School of Law. You are a law student.
Yes,
the School of Law has for a long time not had a home, should I call it. But now, the School of Law is constructing a home. So however much there have been challenges, issues have really been put to mitigate those challenges.
So by and large, we have every reason to celebrate.
Yes, we do. I think we do.
Let me just hear from Dr. Roy Ssemboga. Roy, I cannot help but notice that as we celebrate 100 years, the Students' Guild of Makerere University is in abeyance. It is non-existent. It has been suspended indefinitely. We don't know when that very important part of the university will be reinstated. As a former guild president, as someone who was at the helm of student responsibilities and student leadership, what do you make of this celebration coming at a time when we don't have a student's leadership? There's a vacuum in student leadership.
Thank you, Moses. I think you're restricting me when you restrict my debate when direct me towards student leadership. I think there is much more we can discuss beyond student leadership. Much as it's very important. It's a space that most of us utilize to be where we are. It's a space that led most of the leaders throughout the country, and I think it's a space that should be allowed people to exercise much as you don't agree with them. You need to let them exercise whatever they need to do, because anyway, we are an institution of higher learning. We come here to learn through our mistakes and then through our experiences. However, I want to start by picking from what she has said, that it took Makerere 100 years for government to come and pledge that they are going to build more space. It took 100 years for government to come and pledge that they're going to build more classrooms and what have you. Now, let us benchmark Makerere with other universities of the same caliber celebrating the same 100 years. And we see how their celebrations were, what kind of milestones have they achieved, and then we also gauge with Makerere University and where we would want it to be. Now, for instance, it's absurd that even after 100 years, Makerere, with all its potential, still relies on government for resources. When I was campaigning before my campaign in 2016, I wrote an article and I said that Makerere doesn't need government to survive. It has its own potential, but they're not tapping into. I singled out a number of things, started with the printing press. We have a printer that is bigger than any other printer in this country, and I want to assume even bigger than in East Africa, but only prints exams. When you go to other universities like Oxford, I'm sure all of us have seen the Oxford Dictionary. We have seen all the works of J.K. Rowling.
Yes, J.K. Rowling.
And then who wrote Harry Potter? Most of the prominent books, they are printed in the UK. The printing press alone makes about $500 million a year. What does ours make? We only print exams. Not even ballot papers for Guild, by the way, because I was once former chairman, EC, are printed from Makerere. No, they're printed from NASA. Not even Makerere University. Even for convocation, they're printed from NASA. So we spend more money than what we could have saved. Look at the teaching hospital. In the medical school, every year we send about 20 to 30 students to Yale for an exchange program. You can see what that hospital is doing, the teaching hospital. It is the leading hospital in heart surgeries, in everything, but it's a teaching hospital of a university. Why don't you have the same? I can tell you now, Makerere University the medical school doesn't have a teaching hospital. Mulago is a national referral hospital now that has been made super specialized. So that means that at undergraduate level, you can't go into Mulago for teaching practice. But this is an institution that we take pride in, that is celebrating 100 years. Me, I think at these celebrations, besides the cup of teas, there is much more we need to do. There is much more we need to do. Now look at the quality of the students that graduate. I can tell you, when I was Guild, during that time, there are so many people who come to you after graduation. Mr. President, we need job opportunities. Tell them, give me your CV. You will cry. You will cry when you see a graduate of law school who cannot prepare a CV. So now that speaks not only to Makerere, but I think to the entire education curriculum. And when we restrict this debate to Makerere, I think we do a disservice to ourselves. We are not diagnosing the real problem. We are only putting Makerere in a line of fire as a symptom. But in actual sense, there is an underlying problem. And if time can allow, we need to focus on the challenges Makerere is facing. If the trajectory of the country continues like that, Ssemboga at 100 will face it. Even the private institutions, they're going to face it. There is a strong underlying problem. I remember one time there was a fight between Mwasa and management. Mwasa wanted their money, an incentive that almost took about 40% of the entire budget of Makerere University. So Makerere paying that incentive, it meant that the other 30% was going to salaries. This is an incentive before salaries. Then the other 30% was going to to salaries. So that means that Makerere was going to spend 70% of its budget on wages. So the other 30% is what we scramble for services, feeding, lecture rooms, renovations, and it couldn't work. So where is the problem that we need to address? I think there's an issue. There is a governance issue that we need to talk about. It doesn't need, the president doesn't need to be on epitome of celebrations to make a pledge. I think there should be prior planning so that we can achieve. So going to the question that you asked me, that it is unacceptable. As you may notice, oftentimes than not, most of the people who are in the guild leadership end up into national leadership. The previous parliament, 75% of the MPs in that parliament were former students leaders, either at an institution of higher learning or throughout their secondary school. 75%. So I think Makerere, in the bid,
as you wrap it up, I want to bring in Rinah.
Okay.
And
I am very careful when I'm talking about my good professor. My good professor and the administration and my colleagues worked together when I was guild. But I think they have, over time, they've grown an appetite that we have seen in the national leaders of shrinking space to any dissenting voice. The gentleman is writing letters left, right, center. Please, I told him also when we met that you can't manage this university like this. That whoever disagrees with you, you write a suspension letter. Now,
actually, I've had accusations or allegations against him that he has run Makerere like a regime. Like you're running a regime with state apparatus and all those things. But anyway, we shall explore that later on. I want to bring in...
That is the reason as to why. That is the reason as to why. You see, there is a thinking that students should be guarded. For us in our era, we did not agree to anything that wasn't for students.
Yeah.
Now you know the mechanism that we use. When you disagree, we go into the popular. We put a popular resistance, and it always gave us results.
Okay, fair enough. We shall explore activism slightly later on. But for now, Rinah, let me just bring you in. You're a graduate of Uganda Christian University.
Yes.
We are putting Makerere University on the spotlight. Makerere University is a secular university. It has liberal policies.
Yes.
You can actually sit exams when you're pregnant and no one will care about that. You see, you on the other side has taken a conservative approach towards maybe policies and things like that.
Yes.
Let me just explore your mind. Do you think that institutions, their choice of policy, whether it is liberal or conservative, has a role it plays in how they perform in terms of research, in how they perform in terms of activism of students? Do you think which way to go, conservative or liberal, being that it is a university?
Thank you so much, Moses. I would say that it's according to how the university handles its matters and policies. For example, just like you said, if you're pregnant, you cannot do exams. You are chased automatically because you have to bring a marriage certificate. So, and Makerere, I think it is fair enough because students do their exams. And now it's also a disadvantage to such universities like UCU because it is promoting some bad morals like abortion, because if a student knows that if she's pregnant without getting married, she's going to be expelled or chased from the university, she's going to be forced to get a plan B, which is different from Makerere University. So, but for UCU also, you have to first read their rules. If you're coming, you know what you're going for. You know that it is strict. It is a private university. So if you cannot handle their rules, you back off. You don't go there. So it's how the university handles their issues.
So can we say with confidence that UCU, because of its policy, because of its way of doing things, it has produced more morally upright society members?
Yes.
Is that a fact?
Yes, it has produced more upright people, because now, like me in my family, you can never go to Makerere University. And because everyone is biased about it, my dad will hustle to get that 4.5 to take you for law school in UCU, but he's not going to take you to Makerere because they are biased. Because they know you've taken your child at school, the next day they are calling you, they are striking. So parents are on tension, so they prefer a safer place for their children compared to the other.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bwerere, I think Rinah has brought out a very important aspect, which I would love to explore with you.
Yes.
Student activism. Ssemboga has been a good student of Makerere University in terms of student activism. You know, Ssemboga seems to be following suit. You know, they are also becoming very, very wild and very chaotic. So do you think that student activism has played a role?
Moses, I don't think activism and chaos are the same. You are misrepresenting activism, actually.
Okay, then perhaps maybe Mr. Bwerere can help us present it well. If I'm not doing it well. Mr. Bwerere, student activism, you know, all these strikes, all these demonstrations, you know, all these agitations. Do you think they have played a role in crippling where Makerere University or Ssemboga University should have been? Do they propel or do they curtail development?
Thank you so much, Moses. I would like to add on. I was sharing my experience with her. I was given money to apply in 2 universities. And the 2 universities were Ssemboga University and Makerere University. In my mind, or in the mind of my parents, Ssemboga University became the first option. Reason being, Makerere being the center of strikes. But when the worst comes to the worst, at least go to Makerere. But Ssemboga University was their first priority. But why would we opt for a 20-year university than a 100-year celebrating university? Okay? This is a leading university which must be exemplary. So my mind now diverts to dialogue. Before we opt for chaos, before we opt for breaking the doors and windows and ban car tires, have we tried dialogue? Mr. President will rebut me on that. Have we tried dialogue between the Students' Guild and the University Council? Okay? So in my mind, actually I was joking here with her. I told her my second application fee to Makerere University, I used it to buy a trouser. Because if it was not Ssemboga, it was Ssemboga for me. I was not ready to go for Makerere because of the strikes in. Okay? Actually, I was happy with the chairperson council in her speech during the celebration that in the next 100 years, Makerere should be known for research, innovation, but not staff and student strikes. In my view, student activism should first see the direction of dialogue than breaking the doors and windows. Because imagine, you strike and a student dies. For example, recent, we lost a student, our own, an African, out of strikes. What if we dialogued in Senate? Couldn't the issue be solved?
But in the previous year alone, Ssemboga lost 4 students.
That's why I'm not speaking on the side of Makerere only.
Lost 4.
We are here to talk on behalf of all institutions of higher learning. Okay? I'm speaking to ECU, I'm speaking to Makerere, I'm speaking to BSU, I'm speaking to Makerere. Okay?
But Seith, just to pause you right there. My question would then be that, because some of the concerns that lead students to agitate or to have activism as an option could be fundamental reasons. They are saying that this is a public institution. For example, why should our tuition be this high? Okay? Some of the concerns are actually legitimate. What option is there if dialogue doesn't seem to yield? Do you expect them to fold their arms and say, okay, now we won't do anything about our status quo?
Maybe you did get me well. For our mind as students, including me myself, striking is the first option. We don't put dialogue first.
That's true.
Comrade President, is that
we don't put dialogue first.
I want to entirely disagree.
Because
I think
Dr.
we are victims.
It was under your presidency where we were sent home for about
on 1st November.
1st November.
Yes.
I remember very well.
Yes.
Where we were sent home for about 3 months.
Can I tell you something? Can I be
Did
honest
you
with
engage in dialogue first?
Can I say something?
Before?
The strike that led to the closure of Makerere University, it was orchestrated by actually teaching staff. They are pushing for incentive. They wanted to close to, I think, I don't know, I remember 75 billion, something like that, to be paid as an incentive. As student leadership, we refused to be party to that looting because they were saying they are not going to class teachers unless their incentive has been paid. Management refused. Management arrogantly refused to engage Mwasa, saying that Mwasa is extremely unreasonable. The first meeting between Mwasa and management was pushed by me and my prime minister then to cause management and Mwasa to have a conversation. We met Mwasa 3 times pleading with them to come back to class. We wrote letters to them. We engaged management. By then, Professor Dumba Sentam was the vice chancellor. And we pleaded with them. We wrote 2 petitions, one to the Speaker of Parliament, another to the Minister of Education. The meeting that agreed if Mwasa doesn't go back to class, they're going to close the university. We pleaded with the Minister of Education, the Prime Minister, and also pleaded to the President that they shouldn't close Makerere University because we have paid our tuition and we are available for classes. Now we had the council meeting. In that council meeting, I wrote to Comrade Chigondo. I think you work with him in communications. Muhammad Chigondo. By then he was heading Mwasa. I told him, this council meeting, I'm going to side with you, but the results of this meeting is going to close Makerere University. What they did, they went behind student leadership, mobilized students at a small fee. I have evidence to this. And then they started a strike. We were inside deliberating, telling students, be calm, but lecturers were starting a strike. Now, let me tell you what happens. Before, you see these letters you write, these conversations that you have for about a week, a month or something, they never make news.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are victims of a bad media policies. They never make news. You never see them in the news. You only see the tail end when students are agitating. Now, because now some policies are very urgent. For example, educational policies, academic policies are very urgent. Now, 60%, they tell you must be 60% within the first 2 weeks of your semester. They write a letter 3 days to the end of 2 weeks. You have 3 days to negotiate. Now, for us, what we have in our armory are the students. Student leaders represent student interest. Every single time the interests of students are not being taken care of for, you fall back position as students. So you call Vimezas and you ask them. Management is saying they're going to lock out whoever hasn't cared 60% within the next 3 days. And I can tell you, pressure in the boardroom is not yielding. What do? All of us come together and we demand. Because even lecturers, by the strike, it's only that there are not very many to get onto the streets like we are. So for us, we say we are not going to class. We are going to sit in Freedom Square and we wait. That is the only way very many underprivileged people can exert pressure on those, and that's the concept of people power.
But how can we stop the loss of life?
Now, listen, what normally happens, by the way, what normally happens is that...
But you see, that one, you might not have so much regulation over it. Because once you're in that moment, once you're in the heat of things, you might not control how far it goes.
I beg to disagree.
Yeah.
I think it's the onus is on the leaders of the students. Because he says, before a strike happens, measures are called. Mobilization is done. While you're mobilizing, as politicians, you believe in ideologies. While you're mobilizing students, you impart ideology on them. However much we are striking, as a must, let us stay away from destruction of lives.
Can I ask something, and I want an answer from
But you know,
colleagues here.
that in the
Name one single strike
in the law, there's something called a
Makerere.
probable cause, like a probable consequence. That at times you might begin an action in a really mild manner, but the way it evolves over time, it becomes out of control. For example, I've seen students going to loot, for example, on the streets of Kidega. Now, what would happen if you're trying to loot someone's chapati and then they end up stabbing you with that. You see, so there are things that
things you
that
can
could
avoid.
happen
Moses,
that might not be easy to control.
the
So the issue is avoiding maybe the strikes
Moses, you
completely.
see, the incidents that led to the loss of a life previously in Makerere was as a result of
a political campaign.
Political campaigns. Yeah. But when we look at our strikes, there are no lives lost.
Yeah.
And also, we came to realize, we did research with...
but you see, Dr. Roy,
let me make this point.
We are not focusing only at Makerere University.
Yes.
At Ssemboga, a student lost... actually, even at Mook, a student lost their hand as they tried to repel a tear gas canister. Yes. Yes. So the issue isn't only about the lives lost, but also the damages caused.
Damages on the body.
You see, you see, this kind of conversation is the justification administration is using to curtail political space, activism in Makerere, and I think that activism is very healthy, not only for Makerere University, but also for a country like Uganda. I must tell you that.
Okay.
Now,
as you wind up, I want to bring in Carol.
Yes, because I want us to discuss based on facts.
Yeah.
That on this strike on this date, we lost a student. The student we lost, by the way, they are during Idi Amin's time. You remember the Kenyans that we lost, and then they carried the suitcase? They are the only students we have lost during strike, and they were shot at by police. These students, it's on record, their hands were up. They were shot on close range. So it was a directive from wherever it came from that killed some so that we can maintain them. And the reason is that the students were moving to overthrow the regime. So the regime was retaliating to protect its own interest. But I can tell you, the other challenge we used to have is that of looting. Afade Muchunguzi arrested all people who were outside Makerere in my time. When we interrogated, we found out that there were non-students who accessed Makerere because never had a perimeter wall and joined for them to use it as an advantage for them to loot. That's the basis I based on to write the proposal for the perimeter wall.
Okay, thank you very much. Carol, let me just bring you back in. I was privileged to attend the Frank Kalimuzo inaugural lecture. And the keynote address that was given, I picked out one very important phrase, which said that Frank Kalimuzo, as Vice Chancellor, said that, or he had this idea that let's take the gown to town, okay? Let's take Makerere University to the community, to the ghetto. 100 years of celebrating Makerere University. Do you think that Makerere University is seen as a people's institution? Does a ghetto person in Ssemboga or in Katanga feel that, okay, the research being done by Makerere University is actually impacting my life here in the ghetto? Has Makerere University gone to the community, or it is still an elite institution?
Thank you, Kidega. Makerere University has done various groundbreaking researches that have impacted lives of, as people like to say lately, the youth, Omuntu Awansi. Research has been done, for example, in the school, the doctors. Good research has been done in fields of, I think it's a vaccine called Nevaparine, something like that, that helps mothers to be able to give birth to children without transmitting HIV to them. And we all know that such diseases, okay, maybe it's a stereotype, but it affects people to the lowest level of society.
That's
for
right.
a mother in the ghetto to be able to give birth to her child and not transmit this disease to them. Research has also been done. The doctor can elaborate on this because I'm a communicator and an economist. I may not have much technical medical knowledge. Research has also been done on tuberculosis. Research has also been done in the field of COVID lately. Makerere participated.
Okay, the rapid testing, the rapid test for COVID, the first of its own in the world, was discovered by our own Dr. Onyengera. So, but Makerere
is going to the community.
Is going to the community, but people don't know that Makerere actually is in the community. I don't know when, but I think 10, 15, whatever years after now, we shall be using Kayola, going to work and then coming back to the bulk SMS platform we are using here. Everyone, you are putting us in your WhatsApp groups for marriage. You are sending us bulk SMSs. That is an innovation that came from Makerere. I think Makerere is doing so much
in
research, and that's why it's a leading institution in the region, because those publications are based on research. However, it is doing so less in popularizing the good things we are doing. That's why they are misleading my fellow comrades here to think that there is an institution that is better than Makerere. That is not accurate. So
yes, Carol.
The commission office has a lot of work to do. I don't know if Namisang is still there.
She's very much still there.
Please tell her that I send her regards and tell her that they're doing a disservice to us, because there are so many people who still think that Makerere is going to the drains because of strikes and what have you. Makerere is still very prominent. Makerere is still making significant contributions not only to Uganda but globally. So you need to let people know what Makerere is doing, so that the young man doesn't use our money to buy another trouser.
Yes, Carol, just still about Makerere University and the community, the connection. Honestly, there seems to be a detachment. It is hard to find someone who has not gone to, for example, secondary school, who perhaps would say that Makerere University is where I would has offered a solution, maybe in terms of, how should I call it, the research around housing, if I'm to say. Because Katanga is just adjacent to you guys. But if you look at the state of Katanga, vis-a-vis a premium black university, look at the neighborhood around Makerere University. Just look at the neighborhood, Katanga. I think Katanga is the best example. Those lives, does it occur to you that there is a mismatch between Makerere University and the host community? Is there a mismatch? Or you're fully connected with those people?
I think I would say that the university, through its various colleges, is connected to its people. The School of Law, for example, usually organizes
PILAC, yes.
Yes, where you go to the community surrounding Makerere and offer free legal services to the community in Makerere who cannot ideally afford the expensive legal fees. The School of Public Health and the medical school also go, especially in Katanga and around the society of Makerere, and offer free medical services from time to time. Not just the medical school, the School of Engineering, Faculty of Economics and Management, all these different colleges go around and offer different consultancies to the societies around Makerere who cannot ideally afford to pay for them.
All right, thank you. Council, let me just come back to you, okay? Makerere University and I think Ssemboga University, each time we have had issues of national importance in courts, we have seen the students get out on the streets and say our voice must be heard. Look at Toji Kwatako. Makerere University students were mobilized and said, don't touch our constitution. And many other national events. We have seen students taking out their views and getting to the streets and saying we need ABCD. Makerere University has been or is a home for, like he said, future politicians. We have very strong political party systems there. To the contrary, UCU is a non-partisan institution. To contest for any position, you go on your individual merit. Makerere University is very liberal. The NRM will have that candidate, NUP, FDC, and ETC. Do you think that Makerere University and perhaps Ssemboga University, their participation in national politics and in national events has somehow made them lose direction of what their actual focus should be on, which is academic excellence, and that because they are having conflicting interests, they are trying to study, yes, but also at the same time they're engaged in all these national events. Has that somehow affected them? Of course, comparing with UCU.
Yes, I think it has affected them because now also it's not like UCU also doesn't have issues. They have those issues, but they negotiate. Sometimes when something is coming up, you go and talk to the dosa, you go and talk to the dean, and you negotiate with them. You tell them what you want, and they also tell you what they want. Unlike other institutions like Makerere and Ssemboga, which thinks that everything can be done by striking, and that affects them. UCU, you come, you read your books, you concentrate. If you want to be into politics, it is okay, you can, and it is protecting people's lives. Unlike these other institutions, last year, is it last year or this year, We lost a UCU student in the Makerere strike, which was unfair. And I think the parents were hurt because how do you pay for your child to go and study from UCU and your child ends up dying from Makerere? So I think it's affecting also their academics, Makerere students, because UCU students are better than Makerere students.
Okay, but do you think
on what
just
on what
hold up, hold up, Roy. Just I'll give you a chance. I'll give you a chance.
Just asking a question.
No,
yes,
just
using what
I'll give you a
she
chance.
said that UCU students are better than
I'll give you a
Makerere
chance.
students.
Thank you. Just as you
Makerere,
respond to that, just my question to you finally is that do you think that political parties should be encouraged in higher institutions of learning? Should they be able to participate and have chapters there and have functioning structures? Do you think that it is good for the health cycle of higher institutions of learning, political parties?
I don't think they should be.
But also as you respond to the
let me first attend to the president. UCU has disciplined students compared to Makerere and Ssemboga. If you meet a UCU student, the way they behave, and sometimes when you have an issue with them, they don't want to fight you. But Makerere has given this, they want to fight everything they are doing. They want to fight. Even at LDC, we have these students who do not believe in negotiations. Everything they are thinking of fighting.
How do you measure discipline?
Many have said it is because they are civically conscious.
Yes.
They are aware that bad governance needs to be challenged. All these things need to be talked against, and
but
they cannot settle for
information.
That's not it, because you see the effects. People are dying. Students are dying.
Which people are dying?
Information.
We are losing students.
Where?
Information. UCU students.
You see, people who are dying are
information.
UCU students in Makerere.
Am
I right to say that they imported their virus from that side and brought it to Makerere?
No.
Information.
Because
am I right to say? Am I right to say? Let me give you information. You're talking about discipline UCU, right? I can tell you on the internet there are more sex tapes from UCU than in Makerere. Am I right?
I've not seen any.
You don't have evidence over that.
You have not seen any.
Information.
Okay,
Mr. President.
We shall not play a sex tape on there.
Information.
As part of evidence, we will not play it.
Mr. Moses.
Yes.
Have you had news that there are some political parties who fund strikes in universities?
Well,
have you had information?
Well,
that there are some political parties where he belongs that fund strikes in universities.
So you're saying NUP is funding student strikes?
Yes.
Let us distinguish between
because that's why I'm defending her. That's why I'm defending her that even in my university, Ssemboga, you should contest as a sole candidate, no political parties. Whether my party NRM, no, because that would bring more external forces to come in the university and involve in university politics. Then our education system is
you are against political parties
in universities
having structures in
the universities. Yes.
Then how then do you expect them to groom young talent? From where?
Easy.
Yeah.
It's very easy.
Kidega.
Moses.
Yes, I will.
Leadership is inborn. Okay. Leadership is in you. Okay. Yes, I know. Noop played a role in his victory. But he had the vision.
That is not true.
If it's not
by then
true,
he was a
UID candidate.
By then,
you mean if Noop was not around,
Noop wasn't there, but I was groomed by DP.
Even if you were
but leadership is within you, Mr. President.
No, by the leaders are not born; they are made. We can argue about that also.
Leadership is in you. Okay. Now, political parties are external forces who come in the university and disrupt the education system within the university. Because if the election calendar is structured by the EC of the university, okay, and now towards the voting period, now a political party outside which wants to pass their own things, they fund strikes in the university. Now the calendar that was going to run for a week and then we resume exams, okay, strikes are on, which takes like 3 weeks, and then exam. For example, at Ssemboga University, exams have been halted because of strikes. So I don't encourage political parties.
Was a strike as a result of? Was a strike as a result of a political party activities?
Exactly.
Let him give us some more facts, for example.
Because
Kidega, you and here are scholars of the law. By the national constitution, everyone has a right of affiliation.
Article 29.
Yes.
Yes.
So, are you telling me that the framers of the Constitution then, they were wrong? That for you, you cannot identify with any political party because you were a student.
Mr. President,
let me tell you something.
You know, you can identify with a political
the
party
forefathers
as a
of our
student,
country.
but in student politics, in the university, they can choose to be independent of political parties, but have your affiliation externally and not bring it internally.
What do you mean by? So are you saying in academic space we can't exercise politics?
I'm not saying you cannot. Maybe you should consider not doing it. Because there are so many disadvantages, as we have seen.
No, I don't think
but
there are disadvantages.
We go to the university to get a holistic education.
Absolutely.
Yes. Holistic.
Yes,
absolutely.
You are into sports, you're into politics, you're into academia, everything.
Who says
Carol,
a holistic education in politics cannot exist where there are no political parties in the
No, but you see, the world that we are going into is a world of bipartisanship. There are political parties playing outside the university.
Thank you. Outside.
No. Because we are trying to distinguish.
Let me tell Carol something. One, well, without political parties and political involvement, there will be no Gerald Kalhanga. There will be no Tagobya Thomas. You celebrated Tagobya Thomas. You mentioned his name I don't know how many times in your celebrations.
But you see, we blame it on students. There will be
no Rakana Rugonda, and perhaps there will be no the NRM government. I can tell you
those leaders will be there.
I can tell you one thing. I can tell you for a fact that they would be there.
Yes,
but maybe
they would be
in a different dimension.
Yeah.
The politics of the university brought them together. I can tell you, at 23 years, Mugisha Moto was living in Livingstone. Rakana Lugunda was leaving medical school.
You see,
the entire clique that led to the coming of this regime, they are picked from university politics. They are the framers of the constitution. They are the people shaping our national policy. I can tell you in the previous parliament, I don't know about this one, 75% of them, they are involved in leadership at some point. And I can tell you not, the challenges institutions are facing right now are purely as a result of bad leadership and bad governance.
Political parties in institutions of higher learning have pros and cons. People like those really brought up the benefits, advantages of having these institutions, like political parties.
I think that my opinion
have misused them.
My opinion regarding political parties and whether they should be a part of university structures or not is that whereas it is difficult to regulate their excessive powers that they use to run student campaigns, I think that there are more benefits of having political parties actively involved in student politics, because it is them who groom these student leaders. It is them who prepare them for national responsibility.
Absolutely.
Look at the Uganda Young Democrats. You look at the cohort of the Mwanga Chivumbis, the Matthias Bugas, they were all members of the Uganda Young Democrats, Makerere University chapter. Where I disagree is that where political parties want to run a guild election, like they are running a national election. You bring in all the resources, all the apparatus, all the what. Like you're running a by-election in sorority. I think that's where, to me, the line is. But otherwise, having political parties,
it's a good thing.
Let me tell you something. Every political party, be it the smallest, their ultimate goal is to get power, state power. They are going to use each and every structure of theirs to attain that power. I can tell you, from the time of colonialism, times of independence, institutions of higher learning have been very critical in the liberation struggles. Now, even regime change. I've just mentioned the generals who went to the bush and then they brought regimes. You cannot tell NUP, please be a bit lenient. They are seeking for political power. And they are going to use all their structures to get political power. I can tell you, the Tojikwatao campaign throughout the country, it had suffered a stillbirth, rather an early death. Not until the Makerere students, the beds of this world, stood up, that other political parties started to also organize activities towards Tojikwatako. I can tell you, the Nyereres of this world, the Patrice Lumumbas of this world, they started fighting colonialism, by the way, starting from student leadership. The Pan-Africans you admire. For you to tell me that because political parties have challenges, is equivalent to telling me that, Seith, if your firstborn does not perform in class, none of them will go to school.
Okay, just 1 second. Rinah, let me just come back to you. You've been quiet for a minute. The issue of political parties, because this is important, because, okay, how should I put it? Is it true that because we have a toxic national political environment, whereby at national level, political parties see themselves as adversaries, as enemies, and that bad politics at national level is now being castigated or trickled down to even the student and youth level? And that is why perhaps the Carols are saying that because there is bad politics at that level, please keep it there. Let us not encourage it at student level. Maybe until we rectify our national politics, then we can encourage political parties. But I think that we are going to be here much more longer than the national political players. Absolutely. So if there is any platform to address the bad politics of our country, then actually it should be at the student level. But let us encourage political parties to be there, but we have them oriented on the do's and don'ts. That yes, you are part of this party, but I am not your enemy, and these are the good practices. So are you for entirely relegating political parties from institutions of higher learning, or there are some merits attached to it?
I authentically concur with Carol, because these political parties, they are leading a lot of bad influence into the institutions. So I'm of a view that they should be removed. Political parties should not be into universities, into schools. Yeah.
But if the political parties are ready to revive themselves and have a limit in involvement in university politics,
I don't think
then it's okay for them to.
I don't think they are going to do that, because they are doing the things that are
by the goals of the parties.
Yeah. That's being countered by what Roy is saying, that political parties might not have such limits, that they are there to look for power.
Because my issue is we give them a chance to involve themselves in university politics, but some parties are misusing the chance.
All right, Carol, just as we take a short commercial break, still Makerere University, let's just try to get back to the gist of the matter. We are taking a different direction. Makerere University, as we mark 100 years, let us just examine the aspect of gender and how much Makerere University has done in terms of empowering women. Okay? I don't know if you've had a female vice chancellor at Makerere University, but I know that there is a female chair to council now. But also I know, like you began earlier on, you said that the level of intake, the affirmative action, that now we have more girls than boys in the university. Let's speak about the role of Makerere University in terms of gender emancipation, in terms of affirmative action, in terms of empowering women. How much progress have we made in that regard?
I think the biggest progress from Makerere University in that regard is the School of Gender. Okay. The School of Gender is, first of all, Makerere University is the first university in Africa to have a School of Gender Studies. Okay. The School of Gender Studies this year celebrated 30 years in existence. The School of Gender is headed by a female, Professor Sarah Sally. So if it comes to gender mainstreaming and focusing on issues to do with gender, Makerere has set the strides. Makerere has done well. Done well. Surely, if there is evidence against that, I beg to refute.
And then also looking at your gender mainstreaming policy, the zero tolerance to what? To zero tolerance to sexual harassment and all those things. I think those are very good and progressive policies.
Yes, that are helping students. I remember in my time at the university, unfortunately, I think like in my undergrad, there was a girl who was raped in a lecturer's office. Minus even lecturers, male students as well. Were also raping girls.
But even male students also face the challenge.
I think males want to be.
That is actually a very harsh.
Makerere University produced the first female girl president in 1987. That is Her Excellence Nora Njuba.
Yes.
I don't know whether she's still alive.
She's still alive. She was actually there.
We respect her for that. We respect her for that.
And I think now the count has gone to 5.
Like 5,
with the most recent actually being a female.
Sure.
So
you also have a ticket from FDC, by the way.
You had to
And
mention.
Shamim Nabasa from NUP.
NUP.
And
Yes,
for the-
you see,
for the
you see,
school,
political parties also giving a
give them a-
platform for Makerere to exercise their policies in promoting
Gender
gender mainstreaming,
politics.
and then they are saying political parties are not nice.
Well, colleagues, let's take a short commercial break. This has been very interesting.
Sure.
Let's just take a 2-minute break. See you shortly after this.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create, and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices, and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Yes, thank you, viewers. Thank you for keeping it on this show, and we'll be back. Well, Mr. Seith, let me just begin with you. The president has made his independence speech over the weekend, emphasized one very important aspect, and he asked a question and said that, where are the professors of Africa? Where are the professors of economics of Africa? Because how comes they have not been able, they are not able to see all the hemorrhage that Africa is losing in terms of either natural resources or financially? Professors come from universities.
Yes.
We are discussing Makerere University alongside other universities. Do you think that Makerere University and other public institutions, but also the private institutions, have they actually addressed the issues of Africa? Issues around, for example, we are grappling with disease. Africa is still a continent that is grappling with disease, Ebola. We are grappling with hunger. Okay, we are grappling. Okay, now there's climate change, but whereas people have reservations for that, but do you think institutions of learning in Uganda, Makerere University, and others are actually addressing the ever-changing and the ever-coming global problems? But also, are the professors doing what they have to do?
Thank you so much, Moses, for that wonderful question. I think when the Europeans colonized us, they colonized us right away from the mind. Colonizing us right away from the mind instilled something that we are not innovative. Partly, okay? Research is not at an extent that it is supposed to be. If we do robust research and from the research hubs that are being now put at Makerere University, we would find solutions to the challenges we have as a nation or as a continent. But in case such challenges like COVID, Ebola come on, we have to wait on what the European masters have to say. They have to give us the vaccine to vaccinate our people. Now, in the projection in the next 6 years or years to come, we should come back and revise our education system on curriculum. I'm happy that the Ministry of Education and Sports is trying hard to revise. Now that our eyes are open and we see where we're grappling, and instead of running, we are just walking or even crawling, revise our education system so that it can produce more innovative people, research-based personnel. For example, what you study is not what even you do. Okay, but if our experts realize the potential of a child or a student at a lower level, and then they groom someone from what they have identified in him and give that knowledge. Besides, even parental guidance itself is key, which has desisted from the communities.
So, are you trying to say that whereas the president in his speech is asking professors to offer solutions and to advise government, he's actually asking for too much, because like you're trying to argue, that the same professors who are supposed to be guiding us have gone through the same education system that has encouraged them to be more theoretical and less of research and less of innovation. And therefore, we are asking them for what they cannot give us.
A state,
is that your argument?
A state is run by many arms, okay? And all those arms must come together to find solutions to challenges that a state surfaces. The president gave examples of how much Africa is getting as far as ICT, agriculture, how Africa is getting, and then Europe. But then he asked, what are our professors doing to identify this and then advise accordingly? Okay? Because he believes, and I believe, and most of the panelists here may believe, that the professors are the ones who should be a keen eye forward, then advise on how we should revamp our economics, and then the GDP of the country increases. So partly I agree with the president that much must be done by the professors to advise.
Yeah, but also
so that the
I
curriculum
think,
should be revamped.
the professors are perhaps only a victim of the education system.
Yes, they are.
All right, thank you. Rinah, let me just come to you, okay? Makerere University, if you look at its tuition structure, you would struggle to find out if this is a public institution or it is private. The point I'm trying to make is that the tuition structure has ever since heightened, okay? And we have moved away from Makerere University being a purely government-funded university, but I think largely it's now a private student institution. Okay. Do you think that some of this is partly because of the limited subvention that government is giving to institutions of higher learning, and that is why they are charging? Actually, education seems to become a privilege only for the privileged class of society. Do you think it's because government is not doing enough to fund the education sector? And that is why Makerere University, among other institutions of learning, are exploiting the ordinary Ugandan. They pay exorbitant amount of money to access tuition. And this is not only limited to Makerere University, UCU as well. So do you think government needs to do more to fund institutions of higher learning?
Thank you so much, Moses. I think government should...
Or we should go the private sector-led direction?
Yeah, I think it should go to the private sector. And I think government should do more funding to these universities, because Makerere is a government university. So I think them increasing the tuition is a disadvantage to the students. Maybe for UC is a private university, so their tuition being high, I would understand. But now for Makerere, the government should do more in funding and providing the services to the students, instead of the students putting in more of their money and the services for themselves. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Actually, Makerere receives 30 million Uganda shillings annually from government to support over 1,000 researchers at Makerere. But it is less.
3 billion.
It's a billion, but it is less. Like she says, I encourage more to be added, because this is little.
All right. Dr. Roy, let me just come to you. Let's evaluate the merit system of Makerere University and other public institutions of learning. I have read a very interesting book by Michelle Obama, Becoming, and she says that some of these issues of society, like racism, like segregation, can be addressed by grit. That if you have the merit, if you have what it takes, people will look for you. Let's evaluate the Makerere University intake merit system. But of course, as we do that, we are benchmarking across board, Ssemboga and also the private institutions. If it were upon you to decide what parameters to use to enroll students to any university, what would those parameters be? Because I heard the deputy speaker saying that we should give these government scholarships to the poor students in the village. But what if they don't have the academic qualifications and they haven't performed to the standard that perhaps you'd love to admit to Makerere University? Do you then just admit them because they're from the village? Is that an aspect of affirmative action that we must explore? So let's evaluate the the merit system that is used to enroll students.
But I think the deputy speaker is not informed that there is a district quota that addresses such.
Because this is all part of nation building. That let us move together. Let us empower each and every single member of the community, and can they have access to quality education?
No, that is the point. I can tell you, we can all sit here and predict the top 5 districts in the coming PLE results, or UNEB results. We can say and predict. We can all mention them. It's going to be Kampala, Wakiso, Mukono, isn't it? And we can predict the last 3, Kamuli, Luwuka, and Karamoja, isn't it? Now, that means that students from Kamuli, subjecting them to the same system, they will not have the advantage like others. So that means that there are national students, national children within this country somewhere who have been sentenced to life mediocrity. That for them they will be that's it. Because this is what is going to happen. They are going to study from Luwuka, get bad grades, get to fair schools, non-competitive schools, get fair grades from those schools. They get to fair institutions and get fair degrees. And then they'll never compete because the job market is asking for clear qualifications. Now, before we even talk about the merit system, we need to have an affirmative action in such areas. I think during the Bote time, there are an educational policy that if you are Kidega from the north, you cannot study from the north. You go either to the west or the central. Those from the east, you do A, B, C, D. But you see, the education system here in Uganda is broken, and we need to fix it. Because it's through the education system that we shape the human resource. It is the human resource that builds the country. Now, look at this scenario. For example, we have people running our education system, the people in charge of education system. I'll sing out Jesse Muyingo. He has over 5 private schools. He wants business for those schools. Do you think he will push a government school to a standard of Seta High so that you can outcompete him? He's conflicted by interest. So, for me, I think, by the way, education should be a service, not even a commodity. Right now, education is commercialized. It's only a privilege of the rich. Seith and I and Carol, who can afford 2 million to go to Chitende, they will go to Chitende. They will find the best teachers in the country, teachers who are going to set exams. Now, that means that Seith and myself, who can afford, shall forever be rich. We can afford good school, we can get good grades, we can get good jobs. Now, those in Luwuka and wherever, they shall forever be poor because they're going to get poor grades, no good schools, and then the cycle repeats. They also produce poor kids. The poor kids go into poor schools. You understand? We cannot be able to have a balance within regions. But I also think that the education can be used as a tool of national unity. Our country is so divided. You hear about the West Nile break-off. You hear about the Acholi, the Luo South divide, now Baganda West. This country is at the brink of genocide. But we can use education to put this country together. Professor Chirumira, he contested with Professor Nawangwe. He went to South Africa after being frustrated. I think he comes here, but major now bases in South Africa. He said in their times, he studied from Mori College. The next one, he went to West Nile, I think Lila, something like that. Then he came to Makerere. When you speak to him, he speaks Lusoga, he speaks Lugisu, he speaks Luo, and I think his wife is Luo. Now, if we can have such an education system The Kidegas come and marry from the Baganda. The Seiths go and marry from the Basuga. In that way, we are bringing the country together. I think there's much more we can achieve with our education system than we are getting now. And I think we need an educational reform. I told you, I am a student from P7 to senior 6, but without a university degree, I cannot even fix a socket. I cannot even paint here. I have nothing apart from the academic paper I am going to get. There are so many students who are like us. So we need to change the education system. You see, this education system we are following is outdated. I told you there is a student somewhere in China Mokaka doing secretariat studies using a typewriter. Where on hell and earth is it being applied? The information we are consuming now, it's no longer an industrial age now. It's an information age. Yesterday I was shocked. The other day, I bought my girl a tab, and the girl was tapping on the sound icon. I even didn't know what it does. Then he said, play me Jojo Sua, please. Then she untapped. I said, wait a minute, hey, what did you do? And you see, YouTube was bringing everything. That means that even writing
is going to be...
Reading and writing is no longer a necessity. We are moving into an information where, for example, I can say, hi Siri, all your iPhones start to respond. Yes, how may I help you? What is it going to be like? Call so on. So that means that typing is no longer an...
So is Makerere University and other institutions of learning preparing for that fourth industrial revolution?
Now, Makerere cannot if they don't have the goodwill of government. Because Makerere is also a victim of the policies that are being made by government. I told you, 80% of our people in Uganda are into agriculture. The current education system dictates that agriculture should be optional, but Kiswahili and Chinese should be compulsory. It does not address the national needs. So we need educational reforms at all levels. And I also wanted to say something about what you said about the president saying that where are the good professors? I will ask him, where is Professor Sente Zakajubi? He wrote a white paper before we adopted UPE and advised. Whatever he advised in there came to be a reality right now. It's now our education that's dumbing us down. I'm going to ask, why is that Professor Dumba sent most of this world? They go advise World Bank on policies. They go to Rwanda and advise on good policies that are actually working. But here in Uganda, they are not. Ramadan Ngobi, he was a very big critic of government. Now once he was given a post, he's following suit. I think the government is doing a disservice.
But does the president stop those people to advise the economy? Does he stop them?
Seith.
Does he?
Seith, let me give you an example that is very practical. During COVID times, Professor Wenyengera invented the rapid test. The team from Bwerere invented COVIDX. Professor Bazeyu and Public Health, they invented the EpiTent for isolation.
There was also, I think, Lamwaka from Gulu University. There was some lady from...
Also who invented another COVIDX something of a sort. Now, where is the president coming in? During the COVID times, you see by the Abuja declaration, the budget that should go to health should be at least 15% of the national budget, isn't it? Before COVID, we were 8%. Uganda allocated 8% of its budget to health. When COVID hit, when there was a health crisis, where you expect the Ministry of Health to have more budget, it was cut 7.5. You're asking, where is the president? He's the fountain of honor. He's the president of this country. He leads in taking such decisions. What I'm saying is that the president Machaz is a good president. At this stage, he is incompetent to take this country forward.
Okay, thank you very much.
A little on his point.
I don't make it a rebuttal between the two of you.
No. I wanted to give it to her. Makerere University has the MasterCard scholarship program. I agree with him. Let him go and find out who are the people benefiting from the MasterCard scholarship program. Is it the son of Seith and His Excellency, or the poor people? Because it is meant for the poor. So who are the people?
MasterCard is not a program of government.
The one introduced by Professor Mondo Kagonyera.
No, it is. MasterCard is not a government project. It is a donation we are getting from
even the state.
Even supplement.
Even the government is not
guys, I want to bring
government scholarship itself, I can tell you, I interfaced with the Minister of Education, and we had a bitter exchange. They were saying that the list of people that is being sponsored from State House is on the list that they know at State House. I can tell you, without fear of contradiction, the list they produced 100% had people from one region.
Okay, we shall
The people who came
that.
from, no, I still have those lists. The people who came from the different region were brought in by Amelia Chambadde and other politicians who sneaked.
Sure.
Yes, who sneaked students from their constituencies.
Anyway.
And those are the lists they are telling us to expand out. Then Professor Dumba Sentamu took an action and said, I am not allowing anyone to sit exams on this list, not until it is rectified and not until it has been paid. And that's how that conversation died down.
No matter the region,
thank you. No,
if it is the son of the poor.
Seith, I think fair enough.
Benefiting from it.
Rinah, we shall come back to that later on. Carol, let me just come to you. You're an economist. In the late 1980s, many African states, and Uganda being a part of them, adopted the structural adjustment programs that were introduced by World Bank, IMF. And one of the key tenets of this program was that there must be private-public partnership, right? Let's evaluate Makerere University and other institutions of learning, how far they've gone towards building private government partnerships. Are there significant partnerships that Makerere University, for example, has had with private players that has been of benefit to the community, but also of benefit to the students? So let's just evaluate the merits and demerits of private government partnerships. Yeah.
I think to begin with would be MasterCard. That would be the first example. This was a partnership between a public institution and private partners who are in the university to this day offering scholarships. In fact, personally, I did not know how you would benefit or how you would qualify to a MasterCard Foundation scholarship until a friend of mine called Sandra told me, oh, by the way, I actually studied in Makerere throughout my years. I didn't pay tuition. How? So she tells me she applies MasterCard, and then she told me when they were applying, there were certain levels of interviews that were done, written interviews that were given to them to check and see the level of family you come from. Do you have both parents? Do you have a relative who pays for you? Are you an orphan? You know, to see if you do qualify for this scholarship, especially if you are a needy person to be paid for. So the MasterCard Foundation that was brought in by Professor Madugabin, as he has said, has been very beneficial in educating, if I can remember well, I think it's more than 1,000 students that have benefited from the scholarship who actually really needed university education that they could not afford. The university has many partners ranging from, recently we signed partnerships with MTN, Absa Bank, Stanchart, DFCU, embassies like the Norwegian Embassy, Chinese Chamber of Commerce. The university has tons and tons of partnerships that are benefiting not only the university, but the community in the university, the lecturers, the students, and the external community.
Yeah, because why I ask is because, for example, Makerere University had, I think, e-learning at some point during the COVID time. Perhaps you tell us that with regards to innovation, with regards to that line of technology, are there certain strategic partnerships that you are trying to look forward to so that we can address the issues that Ray was trying to put up earlier on, that we must move our education system towards the current age? You know, are your innovations strategic enough to transform the education system, or you are having partnerships that are the obvious partnerships? Okay, MTN, okay, give us data, and then what next? You know, are they looking forward to transforming our education system entirely?
I think different partnerships serve different purposes.
Okay.
For example, recently we signed a partnership with Stanbic Bank. Stanbic Bank came up with, I don't know if I can remember the exact name of the program, but it's to the exact benefit is students are going to be able to get laptops from the university management. A student, say you, Kidega, a law student, you have to do e-learning, but you cannot afford a laptop. Where do you go to? You come to the management of Makerere University, apply for a laptop, get a laptop, and pay for it slowly every semester. Yeah, it is a benefit that is going to push forward access to internet, access to e-learning, access to research, access to knowledge, you know, that a student would not get on like a torch, or in the what are these things that we used to use in our high school to get computers? There's houses where they would put computers and you have to pay to get in and access internet cafes. Now a student can, any student can get a laptop on their own.
All right.
Second, we also signed a partnership with UNDP recently. UNDP is going to set up innovation hubs in the university. These innovation hubs are going to be hubs where students are going to transform research that does not end on written research. It's going to, the plan is really to, after research, after innovation, after a prototype, what next? Commercialization. We want to, the UNDP wants to push forward a narrative where students who have innovations can stop seeking jobs, for example, can push their research through these innovation hubs, commercialize these products, and create industries that are going to create jobs away from seeking jobs. So really, we are looking into the future.
That's amazing. That's amazing to know. Yes, sure. After Rinah, then
I want to recommend and thank Makerere University for having and dealing with those organizations and doing partnerships with them, because now it's an advantage that it has over other universities. For example, law students at Makerere University, they are in some are under PIRC, I hear some are under organizations. They come and pick you up after, if you're undergraduate, they come and pick you if you want to do your internship. You go and work with organizations like Uganet, HIRAP, which is not like in UCU. Because for us undergrad, we used to apply for clerkship or internship, and those organizations would tell you, we are taking Makerere students first. So you have to wait.
Because of the partnership.
Yeah, as you're waiting, they have already given them, and for you. So we are forced to look for other places. And those other places like Uganet, which would have wanted to work with, are taken by Makerere students. So I recommend Makerere.
So Carol, thumbs up for the partnerships. Amazing stuff.
Thumbs up to the leaders of
the
university.
You know, I am at the risk of sounding insensitive. These partnerships are very good. But you see, we should stop seeing Makerere at the level of Kabale University, and we see it at the stature it deserves. Carol, I'm very sorry. But
I think you're speaking for yourself and entitled to your opinion.
No.
So it's okay.
No, listen, Carol, I'm very sorry. But for you to sit here and tell me that Makerere has sponsored 1,000 students through MasterCard Foundation, I think that's a partnership that should be at the guild level. To be honest with you.
What do you mean?
Look, my friend. When you go to the universities, even the University of Nairobi, they're establishing partnership with Google. They are picking on their students' innovations from here into the world market. For me, I don't care. When you give me a scholarship, you teach me how to make, you pay for me, do for the science, teach me how to make juice. If I don't have the capacity to produce juice and take it into the square and compete on the global market, you are doing me a very big disservice. I can tell you, our student, for example, when I was guild, I had 90 days. We invented what we call MIC. I'm sure you've heard about it. Makerere Innovation and Incubation Center. It is at ICT. We got for them funds from KICS. Our students who are doing that, if you have an innovation, they can help you put a product to a level that is marketable.
A minimum viable product.
Yes. That if you have maybe an application, they help you develop it, pay for this and this and this and this to put it in the market. So it is incumbent of you from that level to take it where it belongs. The partners that we need is UNDP. We need Google. We need Microsoft. Those are partners that we need. There is a lot of innovation sitting in there. Makerere invented in 2005. They brought a program. They brought up a forum called Makerere University Private Sector Forum. The purpose of that forum was to link academia, public, and private. I'll tell you where their offices are, Carol. When you're visiting, behind the guest house, where they put that foundation stone for Motebile. It has never kicked off since 2005. The only thing they do is to enjoy trips and then fight for the money. You see Professor Noah fighting with this one, Professor Noah fighting with this one, Professor Noah fighting with this one. Colleagues, this is an institution that has a lot of potential that can do more. And the country leadership should stop taking pride in the small steps they are taking. I want Kamukama Isaac, the man who invented ice cream out of soya bean. After there are people who do not take milk. I want to see Kamukama Isaac producing that ice cream on a large scale through a partnership that Makerere sourced. That is what the Chinese firms are doing ahead of us. The boy who introduced TikTok, it was a partnership between the university in China and the government and the hub, Microsoft, that they got and they put it together. TikTok right now is the most downloaded application in the world. There are so many kids in Makerere that do have such kind of.
So, Carol, we can dream bigger. I think that's what Roy is
no,
trying
what
to
I'm
say.
saying, we
can.
it's not a dream. We can do better.
We can
do better beyond MTN.
Beyond DFC and Standard
No,
Bank.
we can do better. We can do better. It is not the role of the administration to outsource for laptops from students. What will the Students Guild do? Fight over poor meals?
I have a question for the Students Guild. As a leader of the former Students Guild, Student Guild receives over 400 million every year?
Yeah.
And how many years are you in the guild?
Me?
How many years does the Student Guild run?
9 months.
1 year. 9 months actually.
So for 400 million, how many students, for example, does the Students Guild fund to access education?
It is not the role and
What does the
responsibility.
Student Guild do with 400 million in 9 months?
Now listen, it is not the role of the Students Guild to fund
You
students.
see, you say the MasterCard Foundation should be at the level of the Student Guild.
Yes.
That's the first question that came into my mind.
That should
What
be,
does the Student
those
Guild do with
those should
400
be
million?
deals negotiated by the Students Guild. Those are students when
And
you pay.
and she's asking,
No,
under,
You're
as the
given
guild
resources
president,
from
as
the
under
university.
president,
As
Yes,
guild
as the
president.
president,
Yes.
did you negotiate a
Especially
MasterCard
with
deal
such
at student
mobilized
level,
funds.
at student guild level,
Now,
as
let me-
guild president?
Now let me tell you something. When I was guild, remember I had 90 days. I bought kicks in Makerere. Up to now, it's funding innovations. I bought kicks. You can ask Professor Nawangu, he's a signatory to their account. I bought kicks in 90 days. I bought kicks I bought kicks. I bought Capital FM. All those guild activities you are seeing being sponsored. Suji airtime, Suji activities, music and what have you. Capital FM, I bought it on board. Stand Big Bank, we have had conversation. There was the
What Karo is saying is that those endeavors benefit the already existing student at Makerere University. MasterCard is giving chance to
No.
to a new student to get education at Makerere University.
I didn't say
So
that.
what she's saying is
say
that, did your guild give a new student a chance
Through your
to
innovation.
come to Makerere University?
With 400 million, you could
did-
have funded over at least 10 students
No.
in the 9 months.
Did you give a chance?
You gave even one
Did you give a
student
chance to a Ugandan to access
education.
Now let me tell you something. When I was guild president, MasterCard cut off its supply. I don't know if you are aware. As a result, remember Professor Bakuneta, who raped a girl a student in his home, and then MasterCard said, unless you address the issue of sexual harassment, that policy you're talking about, the
Zero
gender
tolerance.
policy and what have you, it was
But
in the
that is
shelves.
besides the point.
Listen. It
That is
was. No,
besides the question.
I'm making my point. It was in the shelf, isn't it? I am part of the team that negotiated MasterCard back on table, and I can tell you, student leaders can do such a thing. Makerere management,
What has stopped
they
you?
have. Listen, they have capacity to do more. I'm saying we cannot sit here and take pride in having a hen, yet we have the capacity to get the ostrich. What I'm saying, that Makerere University at its level can negotiate better partnerships. Makerere University can be a Stellenbosch of East Africa.
With every great journey has a fast begins with a
We
fast
are 100 years for God's sake.
Absolutely.
All
The
right.
next 100
We
years have a
are
bright future.
100
I
years
think-
for God's sake.
I-
What I'm
I think,
saying
Roy,
is that
yes.
why is that universities of Nairobi
Yeah.
that have just come up recently are doing better than us in these partnerships? Why is that? Now there's a boy from Kenya who invented, actually he's a Ugandan, but said it from Kenya, who invented liquidifying bitcoins into cash. The application that we never had here. Why is it that Google is able to take up such students from university that we despise But Makerere in its capacity cannot harness such opportunities. Do you know why? Because when they tell us about MasterCard, we clap. We should speak truth to them and tell them, MasterCard, we appreciate, but you can do more.
You can do better.
We can do better. That's what I'm agitating. I'm not saying that MasterCard is a bad thing. No, I am saying that Makerere, as it is right now, the third best institution in Africa, I think 57 or something, in the world, in a pool of so many. I can tell you I went to China for an environmental conference. I introduced myself as Ssemboga from Uganda. People were asking, where is Uganda? When talking about Makerere University, they all came at ease.
All right. Thank you very much. Colleagues, as we wrap it up with Makerere University and public institutions of learning and their role towards nation building, I'll give you each 2 minutes just to give us your last words regarding this topic. And perhaps as you do so, you would highlight for us maybe 2 of the critical issues that you think Makerere University has been grappling with for the last 100 years, and what solutions do you think we should have moving forward? So just 2 issues that to you stand out, but also the solutions to those issues. And you have just 2 minutes. So, Rinah.
Our independence comes at a time where Uganda has a little population, so I still believe that we can do better. And for Makerere, I think it has been battling with I think 2 issues. That is the striking issue, and I think it can be left or removed out, as I had stated, by removing political parties into the higher institutions. Then secondly, the issue of pre-entries. The issue of pre-entries. A lot of people complain about Makerere pre-entries. So now I'm talking for my friends. So I think Makerere can do better by at least reducing and helping people, just like we had said. There are those people maybe who are from the villages and maybe they are coming into like the institution, and when they do the pre-entries, they're not given a chance to compete with other people who are coming from schools like Chitende. So I think they can reduce for those people and also give them a chance to do law.
So you think that Makerere University should remove pre-entry for law school?
No, it should not remove pre-entry, because I encourage pre-entry, just like UCU has pre-entry, but I don't know why UCU pre-entry is possible compared to Makerere. I didn't get a chance of doing Makerere pre-entry because I didn't want to go to Makerere University, but people complain about it. So I think they should do something about it, yes.
Okay, Seith, the 2 biggest issues facing Makerere University, but also other public institutions, and what solutions are there for them?
First, I know you will disagree with me, but we don't take the enabling environment by the NRM government to enable education. Okay? For those who can access scholarship, at least there is peace and stability to access education. Okay? Now, Makerere University should use that to produce more economists who would advise on how we can have a better economy in our country. 2, science and technology. Science and technology should be at a finger point of Makerere University. As the leading university in this country and in Africa, okay, we should produce more scientists who should find solutions to challenges that we have, like COVID and Ebola and so on. Okay. Then leadership. Makerere has produced more leaders that we've seen. So producing more is something we look up to as youth. And then 3, Makerere should improve on more faculties and enrollment. Okay, for more students to have or even lower the tuition, so that even the poor students could have the environment of education realized for them. Thank you.
Yes, Carol.
One of the issues I think the university, not only Makerere, but all institutions of higher learning in Uganda need to focus on is the transition from research to commercialization of this research. Because many students end their studies, their first degrees, second degrees, with brilliant research papers,
That's right, yeah.
with great innovations, but they stop at being research papers. And yet all these could be potential forms of job creation opportunities, which will reduce on the unemployment in the country somewhere. Yes, I know it's a long journey from a research paper to a prototype to a product, then to selling, to creating an industry. It's a whole process. But we can start from somewhere.
Yeah.
So I hope in the future.
Makerere is clapping
can
for
be
having
worked
one
on.
research hub, but we could have more, like he said. We can do more.
Yeah.
Let you not clap because you're having one research hub, but you're clapping because of you have 10 and 20. Yes.
Yeah, it's one of the things.
At least me and Seith, we have something. We have I think having had an opportunity to be part of management of Makerere, and I think this is the same problem that affects all other institutions of higher learning. They're grappling with an issue of resources. You sit in an FPIC meeting, the budget meeting, and you can clear people sharing peanuts, saying, okay. Now, that issue hinders so many things, from services, the laptops are talking about, the internet, water, wealth of students, wealth of staff and everything, structures, talking about new hostelia, whatever you're talking about, all those related around resources. And I can tell you clearly, Makerere is not getting enough money from Seith's government. And we need to
More is coming, don't know.
See, we have had over 40 years still waiting for more, more to come. Now, for me, what I think, as Makerere is waiting for government to inject more money, it may even never inject more money, because the president made a pledge in the previous speech. I can tell you, every time the visitor comes to Makerere, he makes pledges, but have not been realized. I think there are things that Makerere can do on its own to realize. If you can look at the budget, how much we spend on visitors in hotels, conferences, we can have our own 5-star hotel owned by Makerere, run by Makerere. So those are the partnerships that we need. We can have a PPP with maybe any other investor.
All those are partnerships in progress.
We do a BOT. They can own for some period of time. Then later on, we can. I brought a professor called Professor Wafid from Iraq. He wanted to build solar panels across the hill. He said that the concentration of the biggest concentration of solar energy in Kampala is around Makerere. So he wanted to get the roofs only, construct solar panels on top of the roof, even cultivate the area, so that it generates energy and supply to Makerere and the other surrounding areas. That project has never kicked off. So Makerere need to focus on that to realize such projects that generate income on its own. No one is stopping Makerere to use its printing press for commercial use. We can upgrade the guest house into something better. When you go to the universities, they have that potential. They have done so. We had a proposal with Dr. Tagobya that the perimeter wall shouldn't be a wall of its own. Those are commercial areas. We can put rentals instead of just a mayor. Instead of just a mayor, we are looking for ways on how we can generate. We can build our sports arenas to standards that can also generate income. There is a lot of potential that we can get money out of this. We have carbon, we have farmland, but don't even produce a sack of soybeans. It's just there seated. It's a lot of land. It's about 7 acres of land. We don't get money out of that. Then the other critical, because I think a university, for example, it should be a hub of research and innovation to address the challenges of the country at a particular time. Now, most of the research in Makerere end up on paper. There's a lot of research on the shelf. I can name a gazillion of them. What Makerere needs to do in these circumstances, Makerere needs now to establish credible partnerships. Leave around these MTN, Stanbic, laptop, nothing. That is not worth a stitch. I can tell you, that should be at the level of secondary school. I'm being honest. It is a good thing to step in the direction, but we cannot take pride of that at the stature of Makerere University. We need to establish credible partnership.
United Nations.
No, not necessarily that. There are so many established. I've given an example. Google is outsourcing for brilliant people across the globe. What is stopping Makerere from engaging Google? What do our professors do when they go to such countries? You go to San Francisco, there is a hub of almost every big tech. And then you say you cannot have them What did the boys of Ssemboga do to bring it here? That our professors cannot do. So we need to establish credible partnership that are aligned. Not everyone who comes to us, we should run to them as well. Because there are those who come to tap on the reputation of Makerere University, throw a few millions, and then we jump on them. We should clearly state out the kind of partners that we need that are going to suit our students. I can tell you, professors, very many of them have very good innovations. Our students have very good innovations. Then also Makerere should push for the patent laws. We don't have it here in Uganda. And we're the victims. Our students are victims. Most of the professors benefit from the work of our students. We need to protect the minds of those who sit and think beyond us who are sleeping. So that we protect their work as well. It's not good enough, because one thing you'll see, some professors' research published somewhere else, being printed somewhere else, because there's no that protects us from that. We need to push for that. So I think in Makerere, two things that is lacking. One is resources, and also realization of the research and innovation that we did to. For resources, we can start to generate our own resources as we wait for government to come in. I also understand that there is a big load on government. It may not be able to satisfy all the needs. We need to find a way of going around it. Then for our research and innovation, we need to look for credible partners. But also the university needs to risk and invest in particular research that you see is lucrative. There is no way Makerere cannot invest in the RDT test when you had the epitome of Ebola. There is no way you cannot invest in. There is another research from Kabanyolo, the banana something the president took over afterwards, preserving matoke for a long period of time. And matoke is selling in those countries. I can tell you, go to Abu Dhabi and see. You go to Dubai and see. People are yearning for matoke. The challenge is very perishable. Why don't we invest in that and then we get a market from that side?
Thank you very much, Roy. Carol, just to wrap us up, I had forgotten something very important. Part of the solutions that we are trying to look for lie in the alumni. Okay, when you talk about resource generation, you talk about all these things. There's a whole big alumni base out there. As we celebrate 100 years, have we documented Makerere University alumni? Is there a database that we can, like a one-stop center where you can say, our alumni, if you want them, just go to the system and just pick out their details? Do you have that information?
Okay.
Just in 1 minute as we shift gears.
Okay. There's a system called the MAK Advanced System, started by the Makerere Endowment Fund. So this system is a platform where all alumni across the world are encouraged to log onto the system from wherever you are, log in your details as a proud Makererean, the different various details that are required of you to input. So it's the database that helps us collect all information on our alumni, not just the alumni. The system also has a souvenir shop. The system also has a place for alumni to collect funds. Various universities across the world have endowment funds, which are funded by alumni. So this endowment fund can also be accessed from the MAK Advanced System.
All right, thank you. I think
I have a question. You may find that that system was developed by someone who's in the UK, yet our students can do it.
I think you can do research and find out.
I'm just going to ask you.
Okay,
I'm very proud. I'm very proud.
Colleagues, thank you. I think we have really given Makerere and other institutions enough time. Let us just come back to Uganda for the next 10, 15 minutes of this conversation. We are celebrating 60 years, and let's just spare the next 10 minutes to just prospectively speak about what the next 60 years should look like for Uganda. I know we have had issues around national reconciliation. I mean, so many issues. But just let me pick it from your minds. As we celebrate 60 years of our independence, are we actually independent economically, politically, and socially? And how should the next 60 years look like for Uganda? Seith, as a Pan-Africanist, just start us off.
Thank you so much, Moses. Now, as Rwanda, as Kenya, as Uganda, as Tanzania, as South Africa, you can't be independent when you have neocolonialism and imperialism still existing. Okay? So when you say what is your presumption and what you wish to see in the next 60 years, when we speak as a group, we negotiate. For market, we bargain. We have the bargaining power over one Kidega model.
That's right.
So as a country, Uganda, when we are negotiating for our products, we may not succeed than if we speak as one voice. Okay? take an example. How can a parliament of European Union decide on what Uganda and Tanzania can do? I think partly we are not independent. Partly we are not independent. If it was the African Union Parliament, I would really agree. I even doubt whether we have the African Union Parliament. I need to make research about that. So the African Union Parliament, if it would have suggested that, maybe I would say, those Europeans are the masterminds of environmental hazards, global warming. Their industries are the ones that smoke goes in the sky and global warming happens. But if Europeans can really decide on what we should do as a country, then we need to do something about it. Reason, if we speak as when I talked of having, I have a dream of having a United States of Africa, Mr. President laughed at me. But it's really, I see it coming.
Actually, I laughed in amusement because I was agreeing with you.
That's the second point we are bringing on. Because I appreciate His Excellency William Ruto's speech. We are just separated by borders created by the Europeans. But we are one. We are one. We are one Africans. We are the same. I know we can have the same economy. We can have the same currency. We can have the African army that would come together to find solutions to civil wars that happen in Africa. So me, I think what I pray for in the next 60 years is having a United States of Africa, but beginning with East Africa. Let East Africa be the example, move the boundaries, but those boundaries actually become the bridges where our goods cross, have the same market. If Uganda can produce maize, can trade it freely in Tanzania. If Madame Carol wants to go to Rwanda, it's just a mere showing of African national ID, and you just cross and go abroad.
Wow, amazing. Rinah, the next 60 years for Uganda, how would you want it to look like?
The next 60 years of Uganda, because right now, as Uganda, we have failed on the doctrine of constitutionalism. We see separation of powers like being violated. We see the right of fair hearing, people's rights being violated. We see people being beaten even on TV. The police doesn't fear, it just does it in front of everyone. And now Ugandans are very scared. So in the next 60 years, I would urge Uganda to have improved on the doctrine of constitutionalism. Then also we have corruption in Uganda, where everyone is eating from what they are doing and putting into power, maybe giving their relatives the jobs, and that we can also talk about nepotism. But I believe in the next 60 years, Uganda can do better by eradicating corruption and also working on the doctrine of constitutionalism. Thank you.
All right, just one question. Do you think that the 1995 constitution is still the consensus of Ugandans today?
No, I don't think so. Because Uganda has, we saw that Toji Kwatako, Uganda has touched the constitution. It is not even respecting those articles in the constitution. Yeah.
So we need a constitutional review.
Thank you.
But the role of the parliament is to make laws. So if the parliament considered,
just like I talked about the doctrine of constitutionalism, even the parliament itself is failing on doing that.
But you are the people that elect the parliamentarians. They represent you in parliament.
But they don't legislate.
Your MP might have voted to the Toji Kwatako.
Not my MP.
Okay,
I'm
but
from Kaba, and my MP did not vote to Toji Kwatako.
Okay. We shall. That's I think something for another day. Roy.
Yes, please.
Yes, the next 60 years for Uganda.
One, I don't think we are completely independent as a country. Just look at all of us here. The man is pulling a suit from UK. And they're talking about Pan-Africanism. Yet the same price when you went to Kitenji village here. You would have been in that Kitenji.
I think it's me who is trying at least.
Yeah.
With the African bids.
I can tell 1% of you is African. 99% from the glasses, the haircut. Anyway, that aside, I think there are things we need to do. And the next 60 years, not even 60 years, in the next immediate years, one, Uganda should focus on empowering its own economies, for example. Look, if you went to supermarket, you will find that apples from South Africa dominate the shelves of supermarkets here. Yet, we have producers, farmers of apples in the world just here. Why is it that even the things we can produce easily are outcompeted by those that come from abroad? I think we should be strong on import substitution. The things that we can do here, there should be strict laws on how they can be protected here from within. But also look, I think about 10, I don't know which percentage of our budget is being financed by foreign powers. Once the person is injecting money, there are of course conditions that are attached. We are forced to take on the UPE program by World Bank. Yet the program failed elsewhere within their countries, but they forced African countries to take it on. That's why the students, because its major objective, UPE major objective was at least let the majority be able to write and read. Isn't it? Now we have come to realize that at this particular point, writing and reading is no longer a necessity. So I think we need to stand alone. I believe that the education system of a country should be 100% financed by the country itself to avoid influence. That's why the people we are producing right now, they are not competitive in the job market. When you go to countries like Finland, yes, I think it's Finland, there are exams up to the age of 16 years. Education is 100% free. There are 5 students against 1 teacher. In fact, against 3 teachers. A student is studying 3 different things at a go by 3 different people. And it's the best education system in the world. I think we need to copy that. We need to craft policies that suit the national agenda. Politically, I think we need to shift from the current system of governance. Not the regime. From the current system of governance.
Thank you for agreeing with the regime.
Because the current system of governance does not suit us. Countries in Africa right now that have federated themselves, that have a federal system of governance, are the top 3 economies. South Africa, Nigeria, and now Kenya. I think we also need to federate these regions and give them some degree of independence to exercise so they can develop their own regions. Took an example of the most developed region in Uganda, the Karamoja. It's the most developed, the less developed region. But I can tell you the biggest rock that produces cement comes from Karamoja. But there's no single factory that is in Karamoja producing cement. It is taken to Tororo. The biggest foreign exchange earner, the Chidepo, is in Karamoja. But even the road that leads to Chidepo is not tarmacked. There are no hotels, there's no nothing. If you give Karamoja sub-region their own government, they would be able to exploit those resources and develop. I think a country like Uganda needs a federal system of governance. Not federal of Uganda, but federal system of governance. The Nigerians do have it, and the Kenyans are exercising it, and you can see the economies are doing very well. I also agree that we need to bring back our constitution to the integrity that it deserves. You and you may not agree, but the fact is that the current regime has vulgarized the constitution. She's talking about separation of powers. There is no way the parliament can put the executive to account when members of the executive are part of that very parliament. I think, in all honesty, we should talk to our president. I know people who enjoy absolute power do not heed such kind of moral calls. But a young man like you and myself who are going to be here for a long period of time, we need to have these conversations and encourage the current president to step aside and let people exercise new changes of governance. I can tell you for a fact, that countries, there's a direct correlation.
As you...
Yeah, I'm finishing. There's a direct correlation between countries that change leaders often and economic growth. First of all, it gives stability. It assures stability. The scramble for power. You see what happened in Kenya, purely. Odinga did not put him out of pressure because he knows in the next 5 years, I still have a genuine chance. Their country is peaceful and the economies are growing. Most of the multinationals you're seeing in this country, the big banks, the Equity Bank and what have you, KCB and everything, they are Kenyan banks. Now, our people here in Uganda are going to Nairobi to, what is it called, to buy merchandise, phones. They don't want to go to Dubai, by the way. The easiest hub is Kenya. What are the Kenyans doing that we are not doing? What you need to know that about 30 years back, Kenyans, the big part of Kenyans was dependent on Uganda. Most of the electricity that they are using in their country as a factor of production, by the way, they import from Uganda. So why is that for us who are generating the power, we are not improving on our production? What is Kenya doing that they're improving on their production that helps their economies to grow? So I think we need to address the governance issue in all honesty. We need to have a national conversation in all honesty, and then we need to have good policies economically. We need to ensure that Nigeria makes more suits than the ones we are getting from China, Turkey, and wherever. We need to ensure that such companies are given a priority, they're given incentives, they're given tax holidays. Because now the Chinese firms that who make the same clothing in here are enjoying tax holidays, and then our own are not. We cannot compete with them.
All right. Carol, Uganda 60 years from now.
Uganda in the next 60 years, I hope to see more functional systems. For example, something as small that people really neglect but costs us a lot of revenue, GDP, traffic rules. Something as simple as respecting traffic rules. A functional system, for example, in traffic rules. The moment I cross the line when the light is red, automatically my plates are taken, read, and a penalty is issued to me for a reason, because I have disrespected a rule. Systems like healthcare, I've always told people that I look forward to a Uganda where I can go into a hospital and get healthcare system. It may not be the best, but basic access to good healthcare. A Uganda where we will no longer see many people lying around in hospitals because they cannot afford a bed, because they cannot afford gloves, because they cannot afford syringes. A Uganda, I've also always told people that I think education in Uganda should have not been taken away from, I think, being centralized. Because when you look back then, people who studied in education systems that were government schools, most of our parents and uncles and what, have such great testimonies of the education they received in the government systems of education, compared to now where education has been highly privatized. We have such vast land in the country that is not utilized. If Uganda government chose to invest more in education and make it more centralized, build more schools in different regions where we have vast empty lands, bring education closer to the people, make it more affordable, make it more quality. Really, it will go a long way because it will change the country right from the low level, the generations going up. Because without the right human resource in a country, we're not going anywhere. And it all starts from education.
Wow, amazing. Colleagues, our time is fast spent, and I'm being asked that we should end right here. But it's only courteous that I gave you just 10 seconds to just say bye to our viewers this afternoon. So I'll begin with you, Council, as I move towards that side. Just 10 seconds to say bye to our viewers.
Much obliged, Timothy. Our viewers, thank you so much for watching. And I'll take this opportunity to thank CCG, where I'm currently doing my clerkship, for giving me this opportunity. And I have had a nice time being here. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
First, thank you, Moses, for hosting us. Management Civic Space TV for creating time for youth, because we have a voice to speak and to add on issues of national importance to our country. Members of Ryeitu Foundation Uganda, I'm proud to be representing you wherever I go, and never to shame you, and do what the country calls me to do. And my government, NRM, just do better for our population so that we can serve a better Uganda for God and my country.
Yes, Carol.
Viewers, thank you for listening in. My fellow panelists, thank you for the insightful deliberations today. Moses, thank you for hosting us. Thank you for this space for us to put our issues on the table. Maybe one day, whatever we discuss here will reach the top and cause change.
Yeah, sure.
It starts with you.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Moses and Tim, thank you for hosting us.
Yeah.
I don't take such questions for granted myself. Being in opposition and having such space, it is a blessing. Unlike the colleagues say, some of them, they have the advantage ahead of us. But thank you very much. Thank you for being courageous. And also, thanks for putting our thoughts on record. I want to thank my fellow colleagues for the deliberations we have had. But I, for one, I believe that there's a lot of potential in this country. And I think we are at a takeoff stage. There are so many cogs moving here and there. And I think when the time is right, those cogs will come together. And then I want to be part of the generation that's going to shape the trajectory of this country. So I know one day, someday, I don't know when, but not far away, one of us, or one known to us, I will be in charge of ensuring that this country goes in the direction that it deserves. I am very passionate about that, and I hope that I'll make my family, my friends, and all those that don't know me proud of me at some point.
Wow, it has been an amazing afternoon. Thank you very much, Councillor Rinah, Comrade Seith, Comrade Caro, and Comrade Roy for spending the time to be on the Youth Roundtable. Of course, the producers, thank you for ensuring that our viewers get this show right on time. Well, my last words to you are the words of the late Desmond Tutu. In wherever you do, wherever you are, just do right. Eventually, that right will overwhelm the world. Have a lovely week. See you next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye.